Hello, my name is Jasmine Lee, and I am not your mama's astrologer. Welcome to the week. It is Monday, but who knows? It could be any day because this is that liminal time where days become different, where it is the time between the holidays and the new year, where we become ourselves liminal, full of possibility, full of catching up to where we have gone. We're integrating, we're hopefully sleeping in, we are feeling more thoughtful as we approach the new year. And this week is a really interesting week for the new year to be occurring because Mercury's making some pretty big moves in the game this week. And I am a very big fan of Mercury in general. Not only because my North Node is in Gemini, so I am here to master my thoughts, but also because Mercury rules perception. That, to me, if we can conquer our own Mercury demon goblins, our own inner dialogue, our own what comes out of our mouths as a result of that inner dialogue, then we become truly more aware that when we can also separate our thoughts from ourselves, we become powerhouses of change. We become the inclement weather instead of allowing the weather to happen to us. So when we have Mercury making moves, today Mercury is squaring Saturn in the sky. So I love this for us before we get to New Year's Eve, those of you who celebrate and do New Year's resolutions and things like that, because there is this possibility to now think about, in a discerning way, how we need to adjust our mentality, our focus, our desire, how we need to subtly or not so subtly shift the way that we have been getting into the wrong kinds of mindsets. What have been your limiting beliefs? This is your homework this week because we cannot be agents of change if we do not have righteous awareness of how we are the orchestrators. We are the architects, the maestros of our lives. Because, and what comes up for me when I think about this week is the victimhood of it all, is that we all have a story where we have been victimized. And if we delve deep into that story, there is a truth there about how we perceive our victimhood, and that it becomes less about what happened to us, because all of us have been victimized in our life, but it's less about what happened and more about how we integrated it in a good or bad way and developed as a result of that victimhood those limiting beliefs that if, for instance, you got a no in a job, or you got broken up with, or, so many awful things can happen to us in this life. It is a cruel world. I am reading a Philippa Gregory book. She goes deep into historical fiction with Henry VIII, and boy, was he a naughty boy. Yes, he was. Did so many bad things, all for the act of being adored. And I think that's kind of potent right now because most of us do indeed want to be adored, want to be valued. And how we attain that value is what we need to shift with this Mercury square Saturn. Because if you delve deeply into your victim stories, your hurt stories, history's hurt stories, there are nuggets of truth of why you have an impediment now to be as successful as you would like to be. And it is very important this week that we suss out those limiting beliefs, that we use the power of our mind to heal us and not to hurt us further. Because boy, can we make up stories about each other, about ourselves, about our life story, that I notice in life when something happens to us and then we tell that story and then we repeat that story and then we repeat it again and then we get stuck in that hurt story. Then we don't grow, we don't change, we don't shift, we become the architect of our own misery by repeating the story in a way that our victimhood becomes our vantage point, and we can't be successful and victims at the same time. So really, with the Mercury squaring Saturn, it is an opportunity to, in a more discerning way, think about how we let ourselves down in that way. Not necessarily let ourselves down, but how we perpetuate a story about ourselves. So that's kind of amazing if you're willing, because that's the thing. Someone can outstretch a hand, and it is your choice whether or not you are going to clasp it or not. And that is kind of the clues that we're getting this week in our preparedness for the new year, because we have to be able to let go of old identities, old hurts, in order to allow new to come in. If we are holding on too tight to these stories about ourselves, then we limit what the possibility is of what we could become by being chained by what we think we are. Because whether we think a thing or not, we're right. If you think you can't do that thing, you're right, because you're already letting yourself down by saying you can't do a thing. Because truly, our brains only access a very small percentage of what we have access to in our body, in our mind, in our soul. And imagine if this year you could relinquish the control of self-judgment, because self-judgment is a control mechanism. We do that, we say that so that we don't have to rise to a new occasion, because that's scary. And it's weird how miserable we will keep ourselves to stay in our stories, to stay in those hurt stories of ourselves. Because if we were to let them go, if we were to say, I'm done being a victim, then we'd really have to do some shit, wouldn't we? Then we'd really have to rise to the occasion. I'm very thoughtful when someone says this always happens to me, because if the same thing is always happening to you, if you are attracting calamity, if you are feeling stuck and have been for a very long time, then really it's on you. And you have the benefit this week of Mercury squaring Saturn to see where it's been on you. And listen, we all get then that choice to say, damn, I've really limited myself by thinking, fill in the blank. Where have you really limited yourself by thinking something negative about yourself, or negative about your trajectory, or just an incredibly limiting belief in the way that holds you up to what could be next? And this is a year that don't want to be held up. So don't hold a bitch up. Like, let it go. And that's easier said than done. And I know that because our hurts are a deeply ingrained system inside of us that keeps us in this human iteration, because we are, after all, only human. And it is also the human experience to repeat our own histories. It is the human experience to make mistakes. It is the human experience to have these limiting beliefs. But what makes us ascend into the spiritual version of ourselves, into the best version of ourselves, is that little part of us that can admit that we are the ones orchestrating it all. That imagine how your life could change if you stopped blaming what's happened to you or who has hurt you, and started believing in yourself in a way that said, I'm not going to let that happen again, because I'm going to do what? What are you going to do differently now that is going to shape this amazing year of the horse that no longer wants to be restricted? That year of the snake transmuted so much juju, and it was hard, and we all struggled a lot, and maybe a lot of us fell into our victimhood or fell into a situation that made us feel a certain type of way. But now things are starting to clear. But if you don't want them to clear, then they won't. And it's going to become more extreme, more intense if you allow it to stay. So I want you all to be so thoughtful about the architecture inside of your soul. Visualization is the best way to conquer the demon goblins that tell you you suck. Because maybe you do suck. Maybe I suck. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But what is the story you're telling yourself? What are you building inside of yourself? Where can you go to the heart of yourself that wants to build something beautiful and healing and new. And that's where you need to go. So this is also Mercury being at the end of its Sagittarius season. So Mercury in Sag is the most philosophical, the most thoughtful. I love that the last few days of the year, we also get to have an ending for Mercury. We get to say, I have philosophized all that I can, and now I am ready to apply. Because then on Thursday, the new year, Mercury reaches the end of Sag. Mercury also then squares Neptune. So where we started the beginning of the week, Mercury squaring Saturn, our life lessons, now Mercury is moving out of Sagittarius and squaring Neptune, our dream sector. So we did the hard work of our lessons, Saturn, and now it is time to do the hard work of being the architect of our dreams, of starting to build something anew, of starting to build ourselves up through our dream space and our intuition and that which feels intangible. And so that's really great for New Year's Day because we'll probably be tired. I'm not staying up to midnight. No, I'm not. I am a New Year's Eve bitch, okay? But anyway, whatever you do on New Year's is going to feel very dreamy because with Neptune in the game, it's almost like we don't really know what's real and what's not real in this weird period of time between the holidays and the new year. And why I say it is a liminal time because it is fuzzy. It is okay to not be on the ball, but our thoughts, that's where the power, that's where the mojo needs to go this week. So then, as Mercury is squaring Neptune and we're starting to have more thoughts around what we do want to build inside of ourselves, what we are manifesting inside, Mercury then moves into Capricorn, which is a beautiful thing. And listen, we're going to have a lot of astrology in Capricorn, and Venus is there, and the sun is there, and Mars is there, and now Mercury is there. And it is a very practical thing to have this much Capricorn energy. I mean, for this girl who's all air fire, it can feel very constricting. But it can also be the birth of your discipline. It can help you get disciplined, and it can help you whistle while you work, so to speak. It can help you get into that workspace, into that practicality inside of yourself that can make shit happen. So I kind of love that for us. And then Friday, Chiron, the thing that's been hurting us, it's in that house of self. It's been asking us to review our personal hurts, which is why I brought up all this hurt stuff today. Chiron goes direct. And so it's almost like we have the practicality to do the hard work. And Chiron is tapping us on the shoulder in Aries saying, and now it is time to check back in with yourself. It is time to let the victimhood go. It is time to stop grieving what was never for you in the first place and let that go and move forward. And that is amazing because then on Saturday, we have this big, beautiful full moon in Cancer, which is ruled by the moon. So it is incredibly powerful full moon. It is also sitting with Jupiter. And so the planet of good luck and tidings sitting right next to this big, beautiful full moon in Cancer, the beauty of the world, of creation, might just move us to tears in the best way possible, to be righteously present with our lived experience, with our family, with our ancestral wisdom is all up for grabs here. And now, in the opposing sector, we also are very empowered because the sun and Venus are sitting together. Venus is getting ready to make a cazimi with the sun in Capricorn. So there is this beautiful juxtaposition of love and hard work, meeting that Cancer full moon with Jupiter, of when we tap into our emotional sector, we reward ourselves with good tidings, with the ability to overcome, with healing, with those cleansing tears that help us become a better version of ourselves, a more loving version of ourselves. The only thing that can be a little tricky about this full moon this weekend is that it is also opposing Mars in Capricorn. And, you know, Mars loves a good fight. Mars loves to stick up for itself. And in Capricorn, it can be quite the slice and dice energy. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. I think that it is going to be a beautiful full moon. However, I do know that when we are having that kind of opposition to Mars, it can be a little messy boots. It can be a little unquantifiable. And to let it be that, to let there be a little bit of unquantifiable mess in your weekend is totally okay, so long as you are also attuning yourself to the great healing that is here for you when we embrace a Cancer full moon. That is our mother energy. It is our nurturer. It is the moon. It is our rest. It is the surrender. And that word surrender, I have always had a very hard time with, because I am a fire being indeed. I do believe that I can push myself through many, many situations. But this full moon says you can't push through everything. Not every wall is made to be pushed through. Some of them stay. And if you can allow yourself to then lean up against that wall and let go of the fight. And I think that's what Mars is here to try to teach us this weekend. If you can stop fighting, stop having a defense mechanism that isn't serving you, and you can surrender to the mother energy, that then there is great lessons for you within that. There is great medicine in just letting it all go. Doing the mental work this week to then let it all go and surrender to the great unknowing, because the truth is where you are right this minute is going to look so different to where you are this time next year. And what if this time around you could trust the process? You could put some faith in yourself and heal some of those wounds so that you can charge into this year, and this time next year you can say, look what I did. Look what I did with this energy. I stopped being a victim and I started being an architect. And that is the medicine of this year. And that is the medicine of getting the memo this week. Start making some plans. Start dreaming a little bit bigger, because if you can let go of your limiting beliefs, your Mercury, the thing that you always do that always seems to let you down, if you can let that go, then your year becomes this yellow brick road of possibilities. That we never know where the year is going to take us, that we never know what steps we are going to wander through. But if we believe in them, if we believe that each step indeed does get us closer to something else, then we are the architects of our own creation and our future and what we have to build. Capricorn is a builder. Capricorn builds things, a carpenter, in fact. And if you are building something this year, you will have something built by the end. I mean, but truly, you can't have a product. You can't have a soul evolution if you don't start somewhere. And this is the week to start somewhere. And the card I pulled, and I accidentally picked a different deck. I usually pick my other deck, but I just grabbed this one on accident and I went with it, and I'm so glad I did, because the card I pulled is Covenant, Sacred Contract. And that is so true to what is going on this week. Make a new contract with yourself so that things can change. Aren't you tired of the same old bullshit? I know that I am. I know that there are parts of me that are so long dead that I just keep dragging along the finish lines because I think that she needs to be here when really bitch can go. Like, it's okay now. I don't need that same defense mechanism to protect me anymore. I can start a new contract, and I can't wait to see what that contract inspires and creates into this 2026 year, a year of the horse, a year where we're done waiting, we're charging forward. You just got to get ready. And that's what this week is for. What are you waiting for anyway? Thank you so much for listening. Like, subscribe, share. Help me be that horse. Move me forward. I move you forward. That's the gift of the universe. It is reciprocal. That when we are acting together, when we are moving each other forward, we are indeed moving ourselves spiritually too. That when you give, you are also receiving something in return, because everything is just energy. Yes. So we fix our faces this week. We write our lists. We start building something fundamentally different than what we've been able to build before. And we allow the year to come and get us. Have a great new year, and I will see you in 2026.